Going live. All right, our Hangout is on air. It is Thursday, which means it's Backdrop Day. It is December 11th, so we are nearing the end of 2014. We have a list of design tasks that we're working on for Backdrop CMS, and we're just going to review them quickly today. I'm not sure if Gutam is available to join us, but if so, hopefully he'll jump in and help us out with an update on the human interface guidelines he's been working on. But Backdrop, for those of you who don't know, is a content management system specifically geared towards small to medium-sized businesses. It was a fork of the Drupal project. We're trying to make Drupal simpler, easier to use, more affordable, lighter weight, basically a tool more geared towards the common people. Because Drupal 8, the next version of Drupal software, is going to be more geared towards the enterprise. So we're trying to kind of help bridge the gap there between the two types of software. So we have a couple of things that we're working on. Human interface guidelines is the thing that I think has been getting the most attention lately. This is something that's really important because if we can have some guidelines for how people are supposed to interact with the software, then that'll be a great rule set for anyone who's building any modules or themes or anything in the future with a user interface to be able to base off of, like which elements to use under which circumstances, and we can sort of create a more cohesive whole rather than just having anyone who builds something choose their own way of building it. Gutam has been doing a bunch of work on the human interface guidelines project. We have a GitHub project which is located in the Backdrop Ops group. So it's at github.com/backdrop-ops/backdrop-HIG for human interface guidelines. And I think it is yeah, there's no link to it. We should put that. Oh, there it is. So yeah, there is a human readable version of it. There's a link on that page if you want to take a look at it. It basically walks through the interface elements, the design essentials, and the patterns that we're going to be using. So he's got a really great start to stubbing out some of this stuff. He's got explanations of things and what have you. So I think it's coming along nicely. It would be great if we could get some more people thinking and working kind of in the same angle to get him a little help. And then we can, of course, review what's there and make sure that it's all correct. Other things that we're working on, thanks for adding that link there, Nate.
Yeah, no problem.
Is a Backdrop CMS brand guideline document, and this will just kind of help us explain to people, like, when you write Backdrop CMS, the B is capital and the B isn't. It'll have information about our logo, how and when you can use our name, trademark information. We've applied for a couple of trademarks, so we'll get that all up there too, so you can see all of that. Color palette, things that will help us kind of establish Backdrop as a brand, which of course will also help us design things that we need in the future. So getting some brand guidelines will help us with creating designs for the rest of the stuff that we're working on, not just the product, but you know, the website, the coffee cups, everything else that goes along with the product. So speaking of things that need to be designed, we've got a couple of things that we're working on right now that are maybe not super critical, but that are the most important things that we're working on. First and foremost, within Backdrop, the product itself, we're working on designing some pieces of that. Like, we've already rebranded the installer so that when you install Backdrop, it doesn't feel like you're installing Drupal, which is good. But once you have Backdrop installed, you land in the software, and the administration theme is exactly the same as it was in Drupal 7, or almost exactly the same as it was. So it feels like you're using Drupal when you're using Backdrop. So high on our list of to-dos here is to rebrand the administration theme so that your administrative experience feels like you're using something different. Now, granted, the software is very similar, but we want to make sure that when someone's using a site, they don't think it's Drupal. They know that it's Backdrop. So we've got some high-level tasks in terms of updating our style guide, where we can just take the changes to the style guide and blanket apply them to Backdrop in order to get those changes in the admin theme. And that isn't something that has to be done before we release the software, but it should be done, you know, fairly soon before too many people are using the software, just so that we can have that impression we want of Backdrop being different from Drupal. And we do have Darius Garza working on looking at our style guide and maybe even making some of those changes directly to it for us. So we have someone working on improving the style guide. From that, we will then need to create tickets in the GitHub repository for Backdrop the software, and then also apply them. So maybe just one meta issue that's like, make our admin theme look like our style guide, with a bunch of little things we can check off as we go through it. So first things first, we'll get the style guide done, and then we'll go ahead and update the theme. And that doesn't need to be done before we release the product. So just to get that out there. We're hoping that most of the changes we're making won't involve changing the markup that comes out. So even if you have a theme that uses a drop button, you won't need to worry about your CSS for the drop button not working anymore. But we will kind of review this on a case-by-case basis. If we have something that is an API break, we'll make a decision about whether we think that should wait until Backdrop 2 or not, if that doesn't go in until after the release. Most of the stuff will just be CSS, and we'll be able to include it anyway. Another thing that's on our to-do here list is getting a new front-end theme in Backdrop. So this is not something that is short-term, going to happen the next few months. But if we have someone who installs Backdrop and they're like, you know, what the heck? The only theme that's in here is Bartik, and that's not a theme that I'm realistically going to use on my sites. Maybe we should add another theme. Right now, we've got a front-end theme and a back-end theme, and that's kind of it. We have Stark in there as well, but only for testing purposes. It's not something you can turn on in the UI. It's something you can look at in the code as an example, but it's not, you know, Stark is not a theme anyone's going to run either, unless you're going to use it as a base theme. And so it would be great if we could get another example of a theme for Backdrop in Backdrop. So if you have anyone who is super interested in working on that, we could use some ideas there. Again, it's just like creating a theme for a Drupal project. We'll create it and test it kind of in contrib space, and then we'll propose moving it into core sometime in the 1.0 life cycle for Backdrop. So just throwing that out there. Anyone who's really passionate about that, there's a good place to jump in and start thinking about that. We also have a link here in our Google Doc to all open design-related tasks on GitHub. So if you're specifically interested in working in design-related tasks on Backdrop CMS, the project, we do have a link, and we have a tag that's for issues that are relating to design. It looks like right now we've only got about 7 or so issues that are tagged with design. It doesn't look like any of them are necessary for the 1.0.0 release, which is good. No blockers, I guess, nothing super critical. But if you did want to work on, for example, the edit layout interface or adding an icon font to core, these are some things that we can use designer skill and insight on. And we should also review the master list of issues and make sure, I know this tag is new, we should make sure all of the issues that are actually design related do have the tag, and we'll of course be watching that going forward. Anyone who wants to create an issue against Backdrop won't automatically have permission to tag them, so you'll need to either request access to the group that can add tags or submit a pull request, and you should get that access granted to you automatically. But yeah, it should be pretty easy for people to organize those once they're in. All right, another thing that we're working on is the backdropcms.org flagship website, and this is something that I think that's super important in terms of getting our brand added to our website. Right now we have a very kind of vanilla black and white Helvetica website that's like, hey, we have a product, but none of our brand is really on that, so we don't even have our logo on it right now. So we have hired Darius to help us come up with a new theme for that website. And I think right now he's working on looking at our content, helping us come up with some content strategy, figuring out how we're going to, make the website work for after the release. Like, we're going to need to obviously put some information on there about having a product out, which is great, as well as, making sure we can get our logo and our colors and all of that other stuff going on too. So I know we sent a whole bunch of content and strategy stuff over to him recently, so hopefully we'll get some progress on that pretty soon. I'm not sure the design and theme will be done by January 15th, which is our release date, but we should at least be shortly after that, able to get some of that content up on our site. So, and if not, we'll get the logo up before that. So we'll have something there when we release, and then we'll have the whole thing added a little later on. We also have a bunch of other stuff that is a little less heavy if we have people who want to work on it. I think after the last design meeting we had, Darren contacted me and said he wanted to work on some design stuff for Backdrop, but he didn't have enough time to do something like an entire theme. So he volunteered to work on stickers. We're going to create some stickers using our new dragon mascot. I don't know how much work he's been doing on that, but I do know that he was interested in playing with that. The dragon mascot is great. It's in our agenda doc if anyone wants to take a look at that. It's going to be fun for everyone to play with in any shape or form or color or variety. And if we have anyone else who wants to do fun stuff with the dragon, that is, of course, always encouraged. So Darren is working on some set of stickers. I know we need to do, or it might be a good idea to do some other kind of handout. Nate and I do a lot of talking about Backdrop at camps and conferences to people who maybe haven't heard it before, and some of them take the information they have home and tell people they're working with or their bosses or their friends about Backdrop, and we don't really have anything to give them. I'm not sure if in this virtual world where we all look up stuff on the internet, we necessarily need more paper, but I thought it might be a good idea to at least have like a business card or a short pamphlet or something that just says, this is our website, code here for more information, which of course would be great if we had a website with more information on it. Right now we have a website with a handbook, which is a good start, but doesn't have any real selling points as to why people should be using Backdrop on it just yet. So hopefully this will all kind of come together, and we'll get a website, we'll get new content, we'll get a new theme, we'll get a brand, and then we'll also come up with a handout that we can give people at events, and then they'll be able to go and check out the website and get all of the information that they need. So that's just kind of on our radar here. I don't know what we're going to put on the handout. I don't know, have any vision for that yet, but it would be good if we wanted to have someone start thinking about designing content for that. That would also be super useful. And then there's also an item on here for T-shirts, hoodies, other stuff. I'm not sure how crazy we want to get with this right now, just because sometimes these things are super expensive to order a few of, but they're super cheap to order in bulk. So I think like if we ever have our Backdrop camp or Backdrop meetup, that might be a good time where we can create a bunch of T-shirts to hand out to people, or a bunch of coffee cups or whatever it is, where you can buy them in bulk and hand them out to a bunch of people. But I don't want to be sitting on like a giant crate full of hoodies in various sizes until we're sure we have people we can hand them out to. So that, again, is fun stuff for designers to think about, but not urgent in terms of what we need. I don't know, Nate, do you want to talk about any of the stuff that we need to be working on before the release of Backdrop? Is there anything else urgent we should focus people on?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe we should set priorities. I think that some things we know for sure aren't going to happen before the 1.0 release, like a new admin theme just isn't going to be in the cards. But the work on the actual site itself, I think, is probably the thing that we're most likely to get done in the near future. But I mean, we've got Darius doing the design on that. So what I think that will end up with is anyone that's out there that has theming skills will probably need somebody to start actually applying that theme. So if we have any themers or designers / HTML people that want to dive into doing some theming after Darius gets the designs done, which, I mean, we haven't given him a timeline yet, but it'll probably, we'll start getting things in the next couple of weeks, I imagine. Then it would be great to have some help in actually implementing some of that stuff. So that's an area where we need help that is in close to the immediate future in the next couple of weeks, probably.
Okay, and we will, like right now, our flagship website does not have anything on it either. So in terms of implementing a theme, it should be something that could be pretty quick, like a day or two, I would imagine. Of course, depending on the complexity of the design. Like maybe we'll have to build, I don't know, homepage sliders or something that we don't have already. But I think for the most part, what we have is super straightforward, and that should make it pretty easy to build out that theme. We, of course, even though we need it in a hurry, this is the kind of thing where we're going to be adding stuff to long term. So it doesn't, ideally, it will be built in a way it'll be really easy to add new sections going forward, and all of the current theme stuff will just kind of carry over. We don't want to just be, bad camping it with just throwing everything together and hoping that it sticks.
That's referred to as bad camping it.
Apparently. I mean, that's one way to go, right? Guerrilla style, just get it done. I don't know. Maybe we consider this website disposable as well and rebuild it every year. But I don't know. Seems like a lot of work. All right. Well, I don't have anything else. I don't know if maybe we should talk about a timeline for design stuff. I know that's on our to-do list to come up with, Darius.
Sure. What do you? I don't know.
So what we talked about in our last meeting, maybe I'll just throw this in the agenda too as we're working on it. In our last meeting with Darius is to come up with things that need to be done in what order. And the first thing we asked was a review of the style guide. Or no, the first thing we asked for was to add our logo to our website. So not a new theme, but just some way to like incorporate our logo and maybe our fonts onto our flagship website. And then the second thing, if he got done with that, was to review the style guide and if he wanted to make updates to it in code, that was one option versus making updates to it in pictures. So some designers like to work in Photoshop or Fireworks or something and make pictures of what things should look like. And some designers are just like, it's faster for me to write the CSS. So we have the style guide in code on GitHub. If Darius felt like he just wanted to change the CSS to make the style guide work, that was one option. Another one was just to make pretty pictures of what stuff would look like. We don't know which way he wants to go with that yet. My guess is that he wants to update the code. But if he doesn't end up updating the code, we could need someone else to update the code. And then either way, we're going to need someone else to update code for Backdrop. So take the stuff from the style guide and apply it to Backdrop. And that'll come later in terms of our timeline. And then after he was going to be working on the style guide while Nate, you and I were working on content for the public-facing site, which I think we got him most of what he needs for that, but we'll probably need a little hand-holding in terms of how to organize in a way that's meaningful for a designer to work with in terms of creating layouts and designs and stuff. But then after that, what we need to do is focus on getting a new theme for the flagship website.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a couple of weeks since we started on this, and that's based on the what are those called? Page tables. Okay. So what I was thinking we could do is add, yeah. What day is it today? It's the 11th. So we could do, yeah, like a week for the public-facing website.
Let's see. Do you think we can get content to Darius like by next week, like early next week?
I think so. I mean, so we got him a first round already, which I think is good. Like we got him all of our page tables and all of the new content that we wanted to add for the like why backdrop section. So I think all we need to do is like get some feedback on that, rework it, and then send it off again. So I think having that done in a week, it seems reasonable. Okay. And then yeah, if we can have him change gears, maybe even starting like December 15th on the onto the new theme thing. Maybe we can get some wireframes by early January, and then designs by late January, and then a new theme up by February. Do you think that's realistic?
Um, yeah, that's totally realistic.
Okay, we'll run this by him too.
So the wireframes, you're thinking that he'll generate the wireframes
Yeah, well, yes. We'll see. I mean, I don't know if we can do that.
ourselves.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I wouldn't trust myself with wireframes, but you might be able to handle it.
Yeah, it
And
depends
then
on.
if we can get the wireframes, then we'll know if we need to change anything about the site, like that's not design related, like if we need to add new content type or a new view or what have you, and we can do that before we get the designs.
Yep.
Um, okay. This looks good. All right. Well, I will send this off to Darius for review, and I guess that's it.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody that joins or watches this design hangout. We'll be meeting again in 2 weeks. So the next one is, let's see, today is the 11th. The next one, oh, it's on Christmas. Maybe we won't be having one on Christmas, but that means the next one will be January 8th, which is much more after the holiday season. I think is a good way to go. We're going to be having our normal hangout here in half an hour. So other just general backdrop status updates will be meeting again shortly. So hope to see you guys then, and thanks for watching. All right, bye
Bye.
guys.